Mark, explain what motivated you to run for re-election.
Sure. So, I've run for election, I think this is the 5th time now, and all of the times that I've ran, I simply want to give back to our community. I hope that I can give back because the community certainly has given a lot to me, given a lot to my family, and I want to be able to give back and to serve. The majority of us all want to live in a community that's safe, one that's affordable, one that provides opportunities, which normally means jobs, provides community, and by community I mean friends, neighbors, family, businesses, churches, schools, education in all forms. And I want to be a part of helping make those things happen. It's important to me that that those things thrive, and one of the ways I think we can do that is by encouraging business, and economic development is an important thing for me. Strong fiscal conservatism is important to me as well. I believe that all law-abiding citizens should be treated equally and fairly, and I will work vigorously to lower property tax, and that's most of the reasons of why I ran.
Okay, I'll address the next question to you first.
Okay?
What areas of county government interest you the most and why?
Well, I would say that first is the property tax issue. It's been one of the things that has been on my mind from clear back in 1988 when I ran the first time for Scottsbluff City Council. And we had a little bit different scenario in the city of Scottsbluff in that we had the ability to levy a sales tax, and that worked well. We don't have that ability here. It's made things more difficult, but the fact is that Scottsbluff is the 3rd highest property tax levy in the state, only outdone by the 2 metro areas, Omaha and Lincoln. And so it's frustrating that we can't get our property tax levy down to a lower level, more comparable to others in the rural areas of the state. So that's one. Economic development certainly is part of that. The more we can create jobs and bring businesses in, the more we can spread that tax base out. I'm a believer that less government and less red tape is generally best. And I believe that that one of the things is crime in our area, and I like to be tough on crime and like to be sure that we don't have things going on in our community that distract from our children especially.
Mark, how many paid holidays should staff receive per year and why?
You know, I've been on the same page for the 3 years that I've been a county commissioner, and that's 12. I've said 12. I still believe 12. I have asked on occasion from some staff, elected officials, what they thought, and they said 14, actually. And, you know, it was my suggestion that in an effort to move things along, that we possibly give a half a day at Christmas Eve, with the thought of ironing this out and putting it to bed once and for all, if we could agree on the 12, but that didn't happen at the last meeting, and so we didn't get it done. And I would just say that if there's no doubt that in any organization there's issues with staff being frustrated from time to time, but issue was mentioned about the morale being down, and, you know, one of the things I guess that I decided was that just because each time morale is down, for whatever the reason, doesn't mean that all of a sudden, well, I guess we'll give another holiday and try and get that morale picked back up again. That's just not the way life works, and if we're gonna keep our property taxes in check, then we have to make certain decisions. It's not easy to say no. It's easy to say yes.
Okay. Mark, the next question is for you. When it comes to administration of the departments reporting to the board, what is the proper level of oversight that commissioners should exercise?
Well, of course, we have two distinct, different situations, and that's, of course, the elected officials. I believe, I want to say 9 elected officials, such as the treasurer's office and register of deeds and all the elected ones. We have very little, if any, oversight over those offices. The only real thing that we have by statute is we hold the key to the purse strings. And so we do get to set their budgets, but as far as other activities and how they're ran, we don't. Now, we do have then many other departments that we do have some direct control over. And so those would be all other departments, such as some of the biggest ones is the roads department, the detention center. The couple that I'm involved with is the buildings and grounds, and then also the planning and building department. But those we have more direct supervision over, and each commissioner is assigned about 3, 4, 5 departments to be their direct supervisor and do their direct reviews annually. And so that's the way the system is set up.
Again, the question, the county has hundreds of miles of paved and gravel roadways, many of which could use improvement. What ideas do you have to speed up that process?
Well, a couple things that I've been against, I will tell you, and that's borrowing money. You know, it was not long ago, just before I was on the commissioners, that the county bonded to, I believe in a 25 or 30-year bond, one of the paving projects going out north of Scotts Bluff. And then I asked, well, what is the life of that road? And they said about 15 years. So we bonded and borrowed money to fix that road, and we'll have to be fixing it again before it's ever paid off. So one of the things we haven't done is borrowed money since that time, and I don't really plan to. The Stiegel Road got in a lot worse shape than it ever should have, but by trying to cut back in other areas, we were able to save enough money to get the Stiegel Road done. And I think that's, again, we have to say no to certain projects, and I know that Jessica would like to say yes to everything that comes along, but you just can't do that. We already have $12 million that we asked for in property tax, and we look for other ways to fund things and get the roads taken care of.
Jessica?
Well, I don't say yes to every project or every idea that comes my way, but asking a lawyer how to build a road or maintain a gravel road, it's not probably going to get you very far. So I, using the skills that I have, would reach out to people who do have those skills, and I would listen to them. I would make sure that we were doing projects that were manageable within our budget, and I would make sure that the citizens of this county are getting the services they deserve at a reasonable cost.
Mark, anything you'd like to
I
add?
would only say that I hope that what has been here in the past has been professional people. And even with those professional people, you still have times and places where someone gets stuck in the mud. But these county roads are extremely critical to our farm and ranch people. And they have to be maintained well. It's a big, big part of our business in Scottsbluff County, and we have to maintain them and keep them in good enough shape for commerce to proceed.
We're not coming back to roads after this. Jessica, anything else you want to ask or add?
No, thank you.
Mark, let's talk about another subject. What role should the county play when it comes to development of workforce and workforce housing?
Well, I'm involved a little bit with the things going on with Twin Cities Development, as I said on that board. I would only tell you that the housing, the workforce housing, in my opinion, housing is driven by demand. And it's a supply and demand business. And when the demand is there, the private sector will step up and they will build what's needed. And some would say, yeah, but it won't be fast enough, and so we need to help with all kinds of different programs or other things. But I'm convinced that it's a supply and demand business, and I don't mind encouraging everything we can. I think a couple things, if we just stay out of the way, things will happen in that area that needs to be, but I'm not interested in getting involved in some type of financial incentives that the county would be involved with. I wouldn't be in favor of that.
Mark, if the county receives a considerable amount of funding from that project, what would be the best use of such revenues?
Well, I agree that the roads area is the one that we would look at first. And I think that the roads department is an area that has continually received less than what's needed, yet again, we're pushed up against our budget limits, our mill levy limits, and so we don't have room to grow that. In fact, my preference is to shrink that, and so I think that would be a logical choice. We've at this point in time, we have no idea how soon that might happen, and the new things that are happening now at the legislature, whether or not that's going to happen anytime soon. We certainly can't bank on that at this point, but I think that's the first place that has to be looked. I'm not, one of the things that would be very cautious of, and that's creating new services that just cost us more money. So the simple story I would say is, let's use it for property tax relief. Give it back to the people in Scottsbluff County.
Mark, anything else?
I would only say about the racetrack itself, and that's that, back in the early days when I was on Scottsbluff City Council and mayor of Scottsbluff, we were dealing with Keno at that time and the new development of having Keno. And I would only tell you that my personal beliefs is I'm not a major proponent of gambling, period. I would prefer that those things not be significant in our community, but I also know that they're popular, and there's lots of people wanting that, and so I have not done anything substantial to stand in the way of those types of things.
Thank you. Mark, next question, we'll start with you. Commissioners also sit as the Board of Equalization.
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe is the proper balance to strike when considering valuation protests?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question, but, simply the commissioners sit, and since I've been here, I think the first year we did it, we had 3 to 4 days worth of protests. The second year that I was involved, we had, I believe, 7 or 8 days of protest, which I think was a large amount. It was when things were being changed at the state level that caused the county assessor to have to relook at some things, and it caused lots of discontent. But all we can simply do is be here to listen to the concerns of the person, and our job is to try and equalize. And so we want to be sure that no one individual is being taxed more for their property compared to like-kind properties. And quite honestly, that's not an easy task. There are no exact like-kind properties. They're similar properties. And then we have to make judgment calls, just like the assessors do. And they do it at a higher professional level than we do, but we have to take a look at those, and to the best extent that we can, look at comparisons. Fortunately, although I was never what I call in the real estate business, I've had a real estate license for 30 years, and I think all of that helps me understand the process well, as far as equalizing value.
Mark, anything you'd like to add?
I would only say that while it's true that some of the ultimate equalization and protest end up going to Turk, there are very few. Most of them are dealt with right here at the commissioner level, and but it is very important that people be encouraged to get into the county assessor's office early if they have concerns, and be sure that their data on their house is correct. Square footages are correct, and of course it's nice today because we have the assessor online and we can go in there and check all of our own data real easily. Well, it's easy for most people. It's not easy for everyone. And so that's why we still need personnel here to help them walk through that process.
Mark, what would you do to foster a spirit of cooperation with those other elected offices?
You know, first I would say that the relationship between those elected officials has been in bad shape for quite some time. Now, that's not to say all of them. I think even, so that was prior to me being on, but since I've been on, there's, 6, 8 that I get along with well. There's some that seem to want to be more difficult, and seem to ask for more and want more out of the commissioners than what we're normally willing to give. And again, there's times when we have to say no. And again, we're pushed up against our maximum mill levy. We're the 3rd highest in the state. So somewhere, some of this stuff has to be pulled back. And they don't like that always, but that's the cold hard facts, is that we can't always say yes and accomplish things in all the areas that we need to. So it's difficult sometimes with a few, but for the most part, I mean, I met early on with even some of those that what I would call that was difficult as described by some of the other commissioners at the time. And I met early on with them with a hope that we could get along well. In some cases, that's worked well, and some it hasn't.
Mark, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, I know that she would like to say that, and I don't think she knows at all what kind of discussions that we've had, whether it be right here in open session, whether it be in private conversations or whatever. My goal, I believe it's the goal of all the commissioners, at least from what I've seen, is to try and work together. And in the overall scheme of things, 80 to 90% of what we do, we work together on things. But there is some 10% or so that sometimes gets contentious, and it's not always easy, but sometimes certain decisions have to be made, and it can't always be yes. And I just say that.
Mark, at the end of a 4-year term, and you're reelected, how would you define success?
Well, I think, again, taxes being lower, mill levies being lower. It's easy to leave mill levies where they're at and then let valuations go up, and then it doesn't solve any of the spending issues. Because it's really a spending issue that we really need to talk about in many cases. So the property tax, certainly having the community be a great place to live and work, including new jobs, more economic development, more business, is certainly important. I think continuing with those conservative ways of life that are important to our community, things like being pro-life and things like being strong family values, and having a good place for our kids to grow up and go to school. Things like Second Amendment rights, that they're protected in all ways. Making sure that those things continue to the best extent that we can do that on a county level. I realize that some of these things are above county level politics, but we still need to be part of encouraging those things to happen.
Jessica, anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Well, we're to our closing statements. Each of you will have 60 seconds to make a closing statement to the voters. And Mark, you're up next, so we'll start with you.
No problem. So I think one of the biggest issues here is that the differences between Jessica and I is that I believe that I'm a 44-year resident of Scottsbluff with a conservative record from way back. Since 1988, when I ran the first time, that my record you can look at and you can know that I have a conservative point of view, and that I'm not sure that's always been the case with Jessica. Again, she talks about coming to the meetings, and she has. One of the meetings she came to, she testified against the red flag law, which is gun rights, or part of the gun right law, and so she did that. She's also, as I looked at her voting record, she's been Democrat for a long time, and then right here, when it comes election time, or not all that long ago, switched to Republican. I think she did that to be elected, and I'm just concerned that her overall decision-making process in what I've seen her testify here, and the things that she supports here would suggest to me it's more on the liberal side than it is conservative. And I ask you to declare that you didn't really mean it when you testified against the red flag law.
Okay, we've come to the end. We want to thank both of our candidates running tonight for Scottsbluff County Commission District 5 for participating in the forum. We hope this helps you in deciding who you wish to vote for. As a reminder, in the May 10th primary election, you'll be allowed to vote for one candidate. The top vote getter in the primary election will advance to the November general election, most likely unopposed, as no other candidates have filed from other parties. This candidates forum is one of several being presented by the Government Affairs Committee of the Scottsbluff-Gehring United Chamber of Commerce. We again would like to thank the Rural Radio Scottsbluff staff for recording this forum so you can view it, the timers for volunteering, the chamber staff, and Scottsbluff County Clerk Kelly Sides for hosting us this evening in the Commissioner's Room. On behalf of the Scottsbluff-Gehring United Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Committee, and for my co-chair, Don Wolf, I'm Bill Boyer. Thanks again for joining us, and remember to get out